Welcome to day 2 of the Women of the World Festival. The theme of this festival is Sakhiyan, which is set around friendship. And we're excited. We are going to start the day with our sessions called The Bites. Ye 15 minute ki talks hoti hain. So I'll get right into it. But before I do, let me just remind everybody that first of all, I'd like to thank our sign language team that's here from PSL. So a round of applause for them. They do very hard work. Thank you. Let's get on with it. So now, keeping with our theme, our first guest, we have Khizra Munir. She is founder of the Sister Please podcast. Featuring a vibrant selection of guests, Khizra's podcast is the epitome of our theme: how to celebrate sisterhood and dispel myths about women and their lived experiences by telling it like it is. She'll be talking about how her creative process behind the podcast and why it was needed in a male-dominated field. Khizra has over 15 years of marketing expertise, leading many startups and building their portfolios. She's a Chevening scholar with a degree in entrepreneurship from UCL. Welcome to the stage, Khizra Munir.
Hello. Okay, that was a nice bio. I was like, did I write all this? Did I do all this? Assalamu alaikum. So, a funny thing about Sister Please is that it is reinforced, the existence of Sister Please is reinforced every time I have a conversation with anybody about what Sister Please is. It started off this morning when I was talking to Zara. And Zara said, I've been wanting to start my own podcast for the longest time. But lekin wo sahi tarah hota nahi hai. Like I can't seem to figure out how to get it just right. It needs to be just perfect. And I was like, wait, stop. That is exactly where I was and where I sat for 2 years with the idea of Sister Please in my head. And it did not exist. I thought of Sister Please in 2020. And it came from this realization where, you know how we're all scrolling on Instagram or all on your social platform of choice, and you see these inspirational reels and stories of women who've achieved so much. Ye CEO hai, ye inhone ek bahut zabardast business start kar li hai, ye financial guru hai, aur ye sab khawateen hain, and we're celebrating them. But then I realized that there was a barrier to entry, that as a woman, you would only be profiled or platformed on these panels, on these podcasts, if you had achieved something. If you weren't a CEO, you didn't deserve to be celebrated. If you didn't start a business or save a business through your financial acumen, you didn't deserve to be celebrated. Whereas I think every woman in her capacity knows that every day we are achieving and overcoming the kind of obstacles that any random CEO would not come straightforward to any random CEO. So it just came to me that why every single day we get up in the morning, and the average experience of someone is that you will get up, you'll go to work, you'll come home, the day ends. But then we look at our mothers, and so many of us look at ourselves. We get up in the morning, hypothetically, if you have kids, let's talk about that day. You wake up in the morning, you don't think about yourself first, you're trying to get everybody else ready for their day. You're trying to make sure your husband gets out of the house on time. You're trying to make sure your kids get to school on time. Did they do their homework last night? Did you pack their lunches? is their uniform ironed? वो last minute project क्या उनकी तैयार थी जो उनको उसी सुबह को याद आएगा कि आज वो project due था? is that done. You get them out the door and then you're like, okay, oh, I forgot to have breakfast. Then you quickly have breakfast, you get ready, you go off to work or the rest of your day. Let's do a work day. You go to work. At work, you cannot pretend like you have a life at home. At work, you focus on the emails, you focus on the meetings, you are present. You are getting calls from your kid's school, you're getting calls from ghar pe ye masla ho gaya, ye ho gaya, but you're also dealing with your work. Your husband is also dealing with his work. You get home and your husband is very tired. You're also tired, but you also have to get everyone's dinner ready. You have to get your kids showered and ready. You have to make sure they're doing their homework. You have to make sure everyone has their meals. You have to make sure everyone is ready for bed. کیا کل کے ہوم ورک کیا ہے مجھے بتا دو, صبح کو نہیں بتانا کہ پروجیکٹ ڈیو ہے. Is it ready? So I realized that in everyday life, I was surrounded by women who I was completely in awe of. These are my best friends. These are my cousins. This is my mother. These are women I have conversations with. And nobody's inviting them onto podcasts. Nobody's inviting them onto panels or having these conversations with them, even though every day I see them climbing these really high mountains and achieving these amazing things. And I was like, why are we only celebrated if we achieve these benchmarks that are sort of set by the external world, or like a man's world has set these benchmarks. Say CEO celebrate hoga, CFO celebrate hoga, author celebrate hoga. And I was like, I want to have these conversations. I don't want to talk about my achievements. I want to talk about the gray area of what I do that I think I'm really good at. I'm really good at walking into a room and knowing if people at home are in a bad mood. I'm really good at knowing if my best friend is mad at me. I'm really good at knowing when someone needs my help, or if someone is upset, or if, I'll walk into a room and if something's not working out, I know how to fix it. It's not something I went to university for. I can do it. I am good at so many things and none of them can go on my resume or my CV. And it is the experience of so many women I knew. So I was like, bas, ab hum apne bare mein baat karenge. There needs to be a podcast for us. And then I started researching podcasts. And I started trying to watch podcasts by men. And I was like, میرے پاس تو 3 گھنٹے نہیں ہیں یہ پوڈ کاسٹ سننے کے لیے. یہ ان آدمیوں کے پاس ٹائم کہاں سے آیا یہ پوڈ کاسٹ کرنے کا؟ لائک ایوری برو پوڈ کاسٹ, ایوری میل پوڈ کاسٹ از 3 hours of men sitting on bean bags, آرام سے بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں اس طرح کر کے, اور آپس میں باتیں کر رہے ہیں, بیچ میں جوکس بھی آ رہے ہیں, بیچ میں they're just relaxing. And I was like, can someone just edit the important parts and like send me the reel? Like the 1-minute reel of what happened, because I don't have the time to watch this podcast. And then I was like, but I also don't have the time to shoot this podcast. Can I sit in one place for 3 hours and not be like, ghar pe maine kya karna tha abhi? Was there something I was supposed to be doing? And so I was like, bas, we are going to make a podcast of convenience that caters to women. Women who cannot sit in one place for more than 20 minutes. Women who, whether they work or whether they are homemakers, whether they are running businesses or whether they've got like a little cooking setup that they're doing, we need to celebrate all these women. Then my woman experience came in between, where we from bachpan have been told that when we do something, it has to be perfect. اگر آپ کو یہ کسی نے بولا بھی نہیں نا کہ جو آپ کرو گی وہ پرفیکٹ ہونا چاہیے, we've just taken it in کہ مطلب اگر میں کوئی چیز کروں گی تو اس کو صحیح ہونا ہے ورنہ کرنا ہی نہیں ہے. And so I came up with the idea of doing a podcast. اور وہ جس طرح مرغی انڈے کے اوپر بیٹھتی ہے نا, میں اس انڈے کے اوپر بیٹھ گئی 2 سال کے لیے. I was like, नहीं, कैमरा इक्विपमेंट होनी चाहिए, साउंड सिस्टम सही होना चाहिए, स्टूडियो सही होना चाहिए, ये शूट कौन करेगा, ये एडिट कौन करेगा, सब कुछ कौन करेगा. और उस परफेक्शन की परस्यूट में 2 साल निकल गए. And it did not exist. And I think मैंने उस 2 साल में हर सहेली को बैठ के बता दिया कि मेरा क्या आइडिया है, कि मैं एक पॉडकास्ट करना चाहती हूँ, मैं ये करना चाहती हूँ, वो करना चाहती हूँ. Until one day, 2 years later, one of my friends was like, please, तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, मुझे बताओ कि मसला क्या है. तुम 2 साल से मुझे बता रहे हो कि तुम ये पॉडकास्ट करना चाह रही हो. Why isn't it existing? What do you need? So I said, अच्छा मुझे ये चाहिए. She goes, और बताओ. I said, ये चाहिए. She goes, मेरे ऑफिस आ जाओ, मेरा बोर्ड रूम खाली होता है सारा दिन, मेरे पास एक टीम है, उनके पास एक कैमरा है और एक एडिटर भी है, हम बार्टर करते हैं, तुम मेरे लिए थोड़ा काम कर देना, मैं तुम्हारा ये पॉडकास्ट शूट कर देती हूँ. And I was like, it was that simple? क्या इतना जल्दी और इतने आराम से ये हो सकता था? And she goes, please just come and shoot it. And I was like, अच्छा ठीक है. And then I went home and I called up this other friend of mine who I had discussed this with. And she said, खिजरा, तुम perfection के पीछे 2 साल तुमने ज़ाया कर दिए. Why don't you just shoot 1 episode? Because then it'll be done. And so the death of any idea is the pursuit of perfection. But if you get it done, if you shoot that 1 episode, you will have a podcast. The camera quality will not be perfect. Maybe the sound quality will not be perfect. But your idea will exist. Because done is better than perfection. Done is better than perfect. At least now, I have a podcast with 9 or 10 episodes. I have a podcast with season 1. My best friend who does this professionally will, she'll be like, हाँ sound थोड़ी सी इस तरह हो सकती थी, हाँ इसको इस एंगल से हम शूट कर सकते हैं, लेकिन you have a podcast और next time तुम इससे बेहतर कर लोगी. Because then I was like, I have to shoot season 2, let's start shooting season 2. She goes, ठहर जाओ, अब तुम ये दोबारा वही कर रही हो जो तुमने पहले किया था. She goes, अब तुम एक प्रोडक्ट तुम्हारे पास है, you've seen how you did it, you've seen the mistakes you've made, you've seen the things you got right. Now you do it the way you want to get it done. And what I learned in that, and what I also did was, कि उस पहली वाली को कोई जज ना कर सके, I named my podcast the Not So Perfect Podcast. ताकि कोई गलती भी हो तो मैं बोलूँ, मैंने तो कहा था, मैंने तो आपसे कहा था ये perfect podcast नहीं है. So if you go on my bio, if you go on my Instagram bio, it says the Not So Perfect Podcast because I called it. I played it safe. You cannot call me out for it. It is the Not So Perfect Podcast and it exists. What are the conversations we're having on this podcast? I have had a really well-known influencer come on this podcast where we have discussed the kind of DMs she gets as an influencer. हम influencers को समझते हैं कि वो celebrities हैं, they are sort of like a mannequin for all the products that we want to buy. So I asked her, what kind of questions do people ask you? I had a plus-sized model on my platform. Her name is Saba Banu Malik. She is a plus-size model, and I asked her, how do you navigate this space where you are very comfortable in your body type, your shape, you're championing the body positivity movement? And it was very insightful. She was like, I don't want to be a champion for the body positivity movement. I want to be a champion for the body inclusivity movement. She said, why do I have to always love my body? कभी कभी मुझे नफरत होती है अपने आप से, बट कभी कभी मैं अपने आप को क्लियोपैट्रा समझ रही होती हूँ. She's like, I will have those days. And that is not something I would have understood if I was just having a casual conversation with her. But in the stream of this long conversation, she revealed that to me. Then I had a journalist come on. And she was having these conversations about, and the funny thing is that because there's no expectations of them having to also be perfect, these women felt comfortable enough to reveal their vulnerabilities, things that people say to them, or things that kind of got stuck in their heads when people said something to them. So this journalist raises her daughter in a different way, where जो हमारी देसी पेरेंटिंग है कि बच्चा गलती करो तो डांटो, तमीज सिखाओ, सही तरह बैठो, खाना खा रहे हैं बच्चे तो अभी से उसको सिखा दो कि कपड़ों पे गंद नहीं गिरना चाहिए, तो वो बड़ा होके तमीज से सीख जाएगा. And so she's like, I'm actually teaching my daughter to enjoy food. I'm teaching my daughter that right now the mess she's making, will clean it up, but is she enjoying the food? And she's like, these are the lessons and these are the ways I'm trying to raise my daughter. I had a journalist, another journalist come on my show, and she is heading a newsroom. But the funny thing is, she is struggling every day to lead that newsroom because she's not what the head of a newsroom would look like. She is 5 foot tall, she's very petite, she's very soft spoken, and her area of expertise is terrorism. So she's like, it's very hard for me to have conversations with people, but when they understand that I know, and I have terrorist on my speed dial because I have like sources and all of these things. Not terrorist on her speed dial, don't quote me on that. But basically that she has all of this access, where she has all of this information, and this is the beat she covers in news, and this is her area of expertise. She's like, people have to take me seriously. And then she also said that as a woman, I have a front row seat to how men try to exclude me from these spaces, where she's like, हमें convince किया जाता है कि इस पूरी जो ये conference table है, इस पे आपके लिए एक seat है. She's like, she's like, they will welcome me in the room and they will say कि आप के लिए ये वाली seat आपकी है और खास तौर पे आपके लिए है. And she said कि usually हम औरतें इस बात पे कितनी खुश हो जाती हैं कि हमारे लिए एक seat रखी गई है. And she's like, वो कौन होता है मुझे बताने के लिए कि मेरे लिए एक सीट रखी गई है? Why can't I have 2 seats and why can't I have 3 seats? And ये सारी seats मेरी क्यों नहीं हो सकती? मैं, आप कौन होते हैं बताने के लिए कि एक सीट मेरे लिए रखी गई है? मैं और मेरी 4 colleagues इन seats पे बैठेंगी, आप लोग अपनी अपनी जगह बना लें. So she's like, we need to convince women that we can take up more space. And then for my next season, I reached out to another friend. She's a homemaker. And I messaged her and I was like, I want you on my podcast this time. And I really want to have conversations with you about how you're raising your kids and what you're teaching them, and how like you're making their everyday experience so interesting, such a learning experience, not the school experience, but like the things you're letting them learn on their own, the kind of questions you're letting them ask. And she was like, why do you want me on this podcast? She's like, are you sure? Like, I don't fall into the category of the kind of guests you have on this podcast. I mean, I haven't achieved anything. And I was like, are you serious? You're raising these 3 really intelligent, really interesting kids. You're teaching them skills that I don't know, that I feel like I might have to pay someone to teach me. And you don't think you qualify to be on this podcast? I think this might be a really interesting conversation on how you don't have to be, again, the whole, where this started, you don't have to be a professional. आपको जाके भाग दौड़ में नौकरी करना ज़रूरी नहीं है to be someone who has achieved something. हमने इतनी औरतों को गैस लाइटिंग कर दी है कि जो औरतें घर पे बैठ के काम करती हैं, जो अपने बच्चों को रेज कर रही हैं, जो उनको पढ़ा रही हैं, लिखा रही हैं, जो उनको अच्छा इंसान बना रही हैं, वो सेलिब्रेट नहीं होनी चाहिए. And the perfect example was this friend of mine who is so educated, who is so talented, who's raising her kids to be such interesting and like skilled people. she thinks she doesn't deserve to be on a podcast. And that is the level, that is where we are right now. So, Sister Please aims to achieve that. And the whole journey up to Sister Please has been that there has to be a podcast that understands the woman's experience. Yes, women don't have the time to watch a 3-hour podcast. Yes, women don't have the time to, so they don't have the time to even show up to the podcast recordings. That is how organic our process is, that I'll just be like, when do you have time? And so we will be like, अच्छा सुबह को बच्चों को pick करना होता है, फिर दोपहर drop करना होता है, दोपहर को बच्चों को pick करना होता है, then I have to give them lunch. And then when my husband, even setting up the appointments or the sessions for the podcast take in the experience of these women. Sorry. I was recently on a panel where I was hosting a podcast panel. And I was the host, and I was moderating, and I was moderating 3 well-known male podcasters. And I was sitting there in that moderator seat, and I was constantly like, I should not be sitting here. I should be sitting over there. I should be getting asked questions because this is a manel, and I'm not learning anything from them. Where like I'm sitting here and wanting to like, I was constantly like, लेकिन आप तो कर सकते हैं ना, and I had to keep reminding myself that it wasn't about me, and I could not get angry at them. But when I tried to ask them these questions, they were like, आप बताएं ना, आपको क्यों ये हो रहा है? And it basically started with one of them talking about how difficult it is to shoot an episode and ye and wo, and I was like, I've seen your daily vlog. You live alone, you get up and you do a morning routine and you pick out an outfit and then you go out and meet friends, and wow, that's really hard. And I was like, I'm sure it's really hard, but I can't even do daily vlogs because I'm just like, अच्छा मम्मी जरा पीछे से हटें, अच्छा oh my god ये घर साफ नहीं है. Like I used to do stories and now I don't do stories because I'm just like, I cannot control the chaos in my house, and it does not need to be the content of my content. But that's what I realized, that even when we have these progressive and like open-minded conversations, we still manage to exclude women from the conversation by putting them in the seat where she can't actually contribute to the conversation. I was included, but I felt excluded. I could not relate to their experience. I could not relate to the conversations they were having. And that's why Sister Please literally invites women in, and sometimes I will not even have a script. I will not even have questions in mind because I just want us to be talking. The only thing I do is WhatsApp करके पहले मैं कहती हूँ, what don't you want me asking you? What is a red line for you? Where do you want me to stop and not talk to you about? उससे हटके, are you okay with me asking you all these questions? And 90% of the time, the women want to be asked different questions. They want to be platformed. They want to be able to talk about the experience that they have daily, where nobody is interested in it. अब हमने ये content बनाना शुरू कर दिया है, where now a woman can create a reel about her whole day of waking up and doing all of this, but it's all very organized, it's all very orchestrated. But these women, their daily experiences of like, अगर मैं podcast भी करना चाहूँ तो मतलब मुझे पहले decide करना है कि आज का कौन सा काम मैं नहीं करूँगी. I do a full-time job, and then I also do a job at home. I wake up in the morning very early. बच्चे नहीं हैं, pets हैं. I wake up in the morning very early. There are 10 things I do before I go to work. Then I go to work, and there are still phone calls from home. अच्छा वो आ गया, इसका क्या करना था, ये करना था. And then you go home, and you're not like changing into clothes and just like relaxing than کہ کوئی چائے بنا کے آپ کو دے دے. آپ نے گھر جا کے اپنی چائے خود بنانی ہے. And now that we've shot a whole season and I've become more interested in the podcast space, there are so few podcasts by women. And I think there are all these conversations that women just don't start podcasts, women are just not interested in the podcast space. But the actual reality is that we've made these access points so difficult for women. We've set the bar so high that even when I've done, and I was speaking to Zara this morning, that even after I've done 10 episodes, even I've done a whole season, I don't have time to promote the podcast. Like, I've built an organic audience. I've got an audience that will engage with me and do everything. But اس کو اب تک پروموٹ کرنے کا مجھے ٹائم نہیں ملا, کیونکہ شوٹ کر لیا, ایڈٹ کر لیا, کام ہو گیا, میں نے پوسٹ کر دیا, کام ہو گیا. But now it's time to promote it, and inshallah with season 2 I'm going to try to do a bit more of that, which is a resolution I'm taking on this stage right now. But I think my 15 minutes are up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khizra. That was a wonderful insight. So up next, we have Natasha Odarani, who will be talking about how her work in data analytics highlights women and their behaviors. Stereotypes persist, but the data proves otherwise. Natasha is the co-founder of the data analytics platform, and I love this name, Data Darbar. It's just brilliant. And some of the most insightful pieces on women's consumer behavior, dating apps, and more are led by her. So please welcome to the stage Natasha Odarani of Data Darbar.
Hi everyone. Good morning to all 15 of you. And my name is Natasha Durrani. I am the co-founder of Data Darbar, not to be confused with your Data Darbar. So my company is a data and market analytics company, and we look at the tech ecosystem of Pakistan. I know data sounds so boring and exhausting. If someone had told me when I was younger that I would be working in data, I would have never believed it. All I wanted to be was a fashion designer, not because my fashion sense was great, but because it was the most girly thing to do. I thought I would be designing ball gowns and, dressing up celebrities and stuff, and not, getting excited कि oh my god, Kareem के financials आ गए मेरे पास, अब मुझे पता चलेगा क्या गड़बड़ है उसके अंदर. So after that, obviously, my parents told me that you have two options. You can either be a doctor or you can be a doctor. So then I got a new career path in mind. I'm pretty sure all of you have seen CID, right? Yeah. So I wanted to be Dr. Saluk. I was like, dead body kaat ke dekhungi andar kya hai. Crime scene investigation karungi. So that was my new career path. Oh my God, I'm going to be whatever that guy is doing. But my grades were very shitty. So that also went out the window. Then I went to Zebist. I wish I could talk about that, but that is a period I have blocked out from my mind. Don't go to Zebist, kids. That's all I'm going to say to you. So after that, a couple of things happened. I worked for Kareem. I worked for a couple of other startups. Till I decided to found my own startup. Obviously, the name is a nightmare because, yeah, it's a cool name, but also I can't Google myself. I keep getting Data Darbar ki crime alerts or something is happening at Data Darbar. So that's a nightmare. But other than that, I have been working on it for 2 years, and I know it sounds boring, but I have done some of the most, I have worked on topics that are of personal interest to me. So I'm going to tell you about some of the stories that I did. I wrote a piece on dating apps in Pakistan, which was a personal favorite story of mine because I was very curious, like Tinder or Bumble mein se kya zyada download ho raha hai Pakistan mein? Do you guys know the answer? It was obviously Tinder because Bumble mein, वैसे the men can make anything a dating app if they try hard enough. LinkedIn is a dating app too. Everything is a dating app for Pakistani men. But I was like, कुछ बहुत हो सकता है इसमें से देखते हैं. And obviously Bumble पे women have to start the conversation. So men are like, हम download नहीं कर रहे इसे. Too much power to women. But also, again, on a side note, it's a nightmare because I look at someone's bio and I start a very interesting conversation कि oh my god, pun से start करूँगी या कोई funny सी चीज़ बोलूँगी, and the men are like, what are you up to these days? क्या हो रहा है आपकी? Do you want to go on a drive? Like the audacity, like I go on a drive with you और सुबह को सड़ेआम मुझ पे episode कर रहा है कि dead body found here. It sounds funny right now, but it isn't. It's a reality for many women. So I was like, let's look at dating apps in Pakistan. And then there was a whole world of Chinese dating apps, of live chat room apps in Pakistan. And we looked at all the data. We scrolled through like pages and pages of data. Ki kaun si app download ho rahi hai? What is the behavior on this? Why are people downloading it? So there was that. So from that story spawned another story. It was on chat room apps in Pakistan like Bigo, Happen, and all these other names that I don't remember. And I was looking at these apps and I was like, I should download these apps and see what's happening. So a woman is playing games and, she's very passionate. She's talking about PUBG. She's live streaming experience. And then you open the comments. And I don't want to replicate what the comments say, but you guys may have a fair idea. So men are sending her coins and men are just requesting all sorts of things for them. And first I thought, it's really disgusting. This woman is just playing and all these men are just objectifying her in the comments. But then they kept sending her coins and she was earning like a pretty decent amount from that. So it was a shitty thing, but she was getting money for it. And then I once spent a whole day on that app. So in the morning it was games and as the night went on, it got weirder and weirder. And we started looking at all these things, okay, what are these apps, how much women are earning. So at one time, these apps were remitting so much money that the SACP issued a notice that, that so much money is going in and out of Pakistan on these apps because men were just going crazy on these apps. So that was also one of my favorite stories. Another one was during a recent Twitter, the one before that, when Twitter was blocked in Pakistan. So some publication ran with the headline that, for the first time ever, VPN usage is booming in Pakistan. I was like, no, it's not. VPN has been pretty prevalent in Pakistan. So people, because data doesn't lie. I love the fact that I can prove somebody wrong. That's my main motivation. I was like, I know the fact. I can prove you wrong. So with the VPN thing also, it was all about like how, VPN has been prevalent in Pakistan for obvious reasons. Also for Wattpad, because I don't know why Wattpad is banned in Pakistan and all of us girls who grew up reading sappy Wattpad stories, we still like to use VPN for that. So also that was one of my stays. So there's also a lot of boring stuff. We write about fintech and e-commerce and a lot of other stuff that concerns Pakistan's tech economy. But mostly I like to personally write stories that, look at the human aspect of it. Even with the VPN one, the dating one, I like to look at, human behavior, like why is it happening? How is it happening? Why is this app being downloaded more than that app? And obviously it has been a very weird journey because my co-founder, me and him will post the same thing on LinkedIn with the exact same caption. And in his comments, men will be like, oh my God, bro, so insightful, yaar, maza aa gaya padh ke, kya data tha, kya insightful. And under my comments, men will be like, do you know what you're talking about? You're wrong. This is the data. This is wrong. This is how you're wrong. And it is so frustrating because you can see my name in the title. My name is there first. I wrote the fucking piece. And then men will still be like, second guessing me कि नहीं आपने कुछ अजीब सा लग रहा है, आप लग नहीं रही आपने लिखा होगा. And of course, I really, resonated with what you said about manners. Like, I'm always invited as a moderator. Like, why am I a moderator? Ask me questions. I'm going to talk about myself. I don't want to ask, like, what do you do? How did you do this? And it's so frustrating that women are just reduced to, moderators ki dikhana hai ki female presence bhi hai hamare panel mein. I think I'm going off tangent here. But yeah, this has obviously in Pakistan specifically, when there is so much misinformation going on, there is so much, false information all around. You see publications reporting all sorts of things. It is very important for us to, I think, focus on data journalism because that's where the truth lies. That's where we know the actual facts. You can't dispute data. Of course, there might be discrepancies in data. Thoda 19-20 ho sakta hai. But still, that is where the facts lie. You cannot dispute it. You cannot look past it. With normal publications, obviously, there's a lot of bias. There's a lot of, there's no credible sources. But with data, it's very clear what's on the other end, what the real answer is. So I think I'm not done with my 15 minutes because I spoke very fast. So can I wrap? It's okay? Yeah, okay. Hi, guys. Hi, all. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever read any story by Data Darbar, but we do write a lot on Pakistan's tech ecosystem, the funding ecosystem. And I know it's not the most glamorous startup because I'm not promising to deliver your startup, your groceries in 15 minutes, which is impossible. We all know that, specifically in a city like Karachi. So, but we're doing a lot of interesting work, and I'm getting to do something that I love, poke my enormous nose in other people's business, which is so much fun. I would never thought that, I would get excited about looking at company financials like I did getting excited. I was very excited about looking at BuzzFeed. Kate Middleton ke saath kya ho raha hai? Kahan gayab hai wo? But now I've moved on to a completely different area. And so there's that. And plus, yeah, sorry, you have a question? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just give you an example. So you guys know about Uran, right? So Uran was one of our clients, and Uran wanted to know how women in Pakistan save money, invest money, and how do they lend money to others. So the data is obviously there. If you look at State Bank of Pakistan, if you look at other data sources, the data is all there. But it's so boring because it's just rows and rows of data. So what we do is we look at the data, we analyze it, we find insights from it, and then we create a picture. Like we told them that, women in Pakistan like to save in committees. Women in Pakistan they are the women in Pakistan who opened up bank accounts in 2023, in 2022. And, we package them all with a beautiful blue ribbon, and we're like, this is the data that you wanted in a much more interesting format. This is what we do. How we came up with it, the name and everything else is that my co-founder came up with the name. And then he told me that, I have this idea for Data Darbar. Like, okay, I'm in. I didn't hear anything. I was like, no, cool name. I'm in. I don't care what you do. I just want to be a part of this. And so this is where that's how it spiraled on from that. Yes. Yeah, so obviously, the biggest challenge, I'll go there first, is Pakistani data is not credible at all. Because you cannot trust government data, right? So you have to augment that data, you have to cross-check that data. A lot of the data that we work with is publicly available. A lot of the other data, like the one I was talking about, apps and everything, we get journalist access for that kind of stuff. And so, we augment that, we add stuff to that, from whatever sources that we can find. We did a piece on what Pakistani startups were, most famous on social media. So we looked at their social media following. We looked at, how they were performing. And we looked at general apni observations. Like, if you guys know of Sada Pay, how great was their marketing? They did nothing. Everybody was excited to have the Sada Pay card. Ki hamare paas bhi hai. It becomes sort of a status icon. So we looked at that. And, so it's a lot of, we have to constantly read stuff. You have to read newsletters. You have to pour through LinkedIn, which is my worst fear because everybody on LinkedIn is everybody's, going somewhere. We just got accepted into Harvard. We are working at the World Bank. Everybody's achieving something. And then you open Instagram and everybody's at the Coldplay concert. So that makes me curious, पैसा कहाँ से आ रहा है सबके पास इतना? AP Dylan भी सुनने जाने हैं, Coldplay भी सुनने जाने हैं, पाकिस्तानी को क्यों है इतना पैसा और मेरे पास क्यों नहीं है इतना पैसा? So that is another story that I will personally work on, कि पैसा कहाँ से आ रहा है? So we're just, we're starting out, we're doing stuff. My Abba keeps asking me, airlift ने 100 million उठाया, बेटा आपने कितने उठाए? मैं कहा सुन, I will get back to you on that. So that was it. And thank you so much. You were a great audience.
Thank you, Natasha. That was really cool. That was very interesting. Okay, so our third speaker is Dr. Aisha Khan, who will be sharing her tips on how to travel free and solo. While it is exciting to travel with our friends, traveling solo can be a daunting experience. And Dr. Aisha is here to share how to be your own friend and fly free. Please welcome Dr. Aisha.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm like I was just introduced. I'm Dr. Aisha Khan, and I'm a dentist by profession, and I've been working here in Lahore for almost 17 years now. But besides dentistry, there was something else which I was absolutely actually passionate about. It was just travel. And it gradually started just for like, I would just go away for a couple of days and then just come back all the way to the northern areas. And it's more to do, I guess, from where I come from. As a child, I grew up in a small city in south of Punjab called Bahawalpur. And it was a small city with a very less population. We literally knew each and every one in the city. But I grew up in a household which was almost a lot of kids around. We grew up as a whole bunch of kids, and it was like super fun. People don't consider, nowadays, joint family system is quite impossible to deal with. But growing up as a child, it was super fun. I loved it because I don't think so I would ever want to trade that experience that I had. And then coming, once I was done with my dentistry examination and everything, and then I moved to Lahore. And it was a big city and a whole cultural hub, and I just loved it. And I've always been interested in history, travel, and culture. So besides exploring Lahore, going every weekend on a solo trip all the way to the Androon, and people still find it odd that I would just walk into Androon Lahore all alone, and I never had any bad experiences. I would just simply walk in there, chat with people, sit on dhabas, eat food, and have chit chat with anybody I could find over there. And then gradually going out of Lahore, traveling south, traveling north as well, and then traveling more towards north because I was super passionate about hiking and mountaineering initially when I was younger. Now I'm not as young as I used to be. So goodbye to the mountaineering, but hiking still I go ahead. And in last couple of years, I decided that gradually it just came to me that my life actually belongs in the mountains. That's where my heart lies. And for that, I'm thankful to a couple of friends who took me on one of the mountaineering trips to Nanga Parbat. And that's when living over there for 10, 15 days all alone at the base camp, I realized that I'll probably live here forever because that's how much I love that nature and those giant mountains around me. And that's when gradually I would just travel every other month during summer times. That's when it's easier to travel to the north and stay there with friends or even sometimes with total strangers, because that's how people are. When we go out all alone, we realize that it's just our fears which are holding us back into the cities. And we want to be around a close group of friends. We just want to stay there and not experience something unknown, because unknown is fear and scary and will be consumed by it. And suddenly, when you go out and you realize they're the same people, they're the same friends, they're the same souls that you meet in the cities. Your close friend, they could also be your close companions. And eventually, uh, in the north, there's a thing called, which comes from one of the titles from one of the mountaineers who've written a book also, even though he's a controversial figure, Three Cups of Tea. The first cup is always a cup which is just an introduction and hello, hi. Second is just, being a friend. And third cup, when you've had it, it's like you become part of their family. And I've never refused a cup of tea anywhere where I've traveled. And trust me when I say I've had like lots of cups of tea, and there are times when I couldn't even gulp it down, and I'd be like, no, this is something I cannot refuse. I just have to go through with this. And those strangers then suddenly started over a period of time traveling alone and traveling sometimes. Friends would want to travel with me also, and I would just take them along. But every time I would take them along, I would just spend a couple of days, show them around, and then I would again take a couple of days for myself also and just go on my own hikes and on my own unknown mountain tracks, which I just wanted to explore and see where they would lead me. And they've led me to a place eventually. Now that in last 2 years, I decided that I finally want to move out of the city, and I've decided to stay in Hunza. So in summer now, I live in Upper Hunza, Gojal, Gulmet. And in winters, I come back to Lahore to a city life, just take a little bit of it and then go back and hide in my tiny village up there. And while doing that, a lot of things came up in between. And the most important thing is when you're traveling solo or in a group is that you have to travel with an open mind and an open heart, because I've seen people come there and they want the same things that they've left behind, the same kind of environment they've left behind, the same luxuries that they have left behind. And while they're traveling, they're going on an unknown path and unknown area. They want those same things. You might not be able to find those same things. You'll experience a totally different place, a different idea, different people, different culture, and a different religion. So you're supposed to have an open mind in order to take that in and embrace it, because you never know, you're going to find something great over there. And in a way, it's actually much more fulfilling if you let your hearts open up and your minds open up and travel. And I have made those people living over there have become my family now. And otherwise, my family is basically based in cities over here in Punjab, but they're there now. And I've been promoting people to travel alone specifically. A lot of people find it very challenging. Okay, how would we travel alone? The basic principle is just get out of the house and just forget what you're leaving behind and look forward to what you'll experience. And just take whatever you experience, take it in and let it sink in. You have to go inside yourself in order to experience it, because you're not going to find the same hotel. You're not going to have a 5-star experience. You're going to have a very basic experience. And basically, that's what truly at a human level we are. We're just simply humans. We add on luxuries, the internet, the telephone, and everything. People keep asking me, why do I, the times when I don't even have internet services, I don't have telephone services, but I'm pretty fine with it. And they're like freaking out, okay, where is she? We need to find her. Sometimes once I was supposed to do a couple of lectures in school in Hunza, and my friend over there called up the local police and he said she's probably died somewhere in a ditch somewhere. And there was a whole emergency throughout GB. And then I come down from a remote village and they're like, oh, ma'am, where have you been? Because we have an emergency. We need to take you back to the city. I was like, no, I'm not going. I am absolutely alive and living, and it's just that I've been away. And, but that's the most fulfilling experience. You connecting with nature, you going alone, you taking your friends along, making them experience the whole thing. And I've never had, okay, there are lots of issues that can come up. The roads are blocked, the internet service is not there, you cannot connect to the people, you need to tell them that you're safe and sound. But besides that, I've never, even if I'm stuck on a road for 10 hours, I'll just sit down. I'll read a book. I'll start writing. I'll start talking to people. I'll start out talking to the truck drivers and see what their experience is. They pass through these roads every day. So, in a way, the time kind of passes. And those people do have an impact on you. Their stories, their lives, they they become a part of you, and you literally carry along those stories, and that's how you end up sometimes talking about those people. And I might not be able to mention all of those people I've met over so many years, but they become a part of you. They leave a tiny piece of themselves with you. And traveling in groups is also another challenge, because sometimes you travel with so many different people all together, and you just have to be a little tolerant. You have to understand their needs also and cater to their needs accordingly if you're kind of a guide for them. And in a way, that's why I prefer to travel solo, because then I'm just going, exploring, and I don't have to specifically follow a certain itinerary and do certain things the certain way. And it usually leads to much more fulfilling experience than traveling in a group does. And the best part has been that I've eventually fulfilled my dream. I'm living in a place where I wake up early morning at 4 o'clock. I go up for a hike for 2 hours, come down, have a cup of tea, and I work for the community over there. The community is basically the most integral part that, and the kind of a respect that I've gotten over there, just because, it's a place which has a 30,000 population and not a single dentist present. Sometimes even a medical facility, basic medical facility is difficult to find. And for them, a doctor who's there all the way from God knows where, from Pakistan, and sitting there and helping them out, for them, it's a huge deal. And for us, we go to a dentist every other day. People just walk in and it doesn't matter. But for them, it's a huge deal. I hear about people who they come in the early morning hours, and they sit and wait sometimes for the doctor to show up. And sometimes I have to visit a hospital where I just have to see a regular patient, because the doctors are not available in those hospitals. But eventually, you get into such a flow that I have found it much more fulfilling than the work that I would have done in a city. And they've become a part of my life now. And I still travel. I still go for hikes. I still go to, and it's much more convenient now to, since sitting there and going for my hiking and mountaineering trips while staying in the mountains. I can go alone for days if I want to, and we can hike, come back, and that's how it's been. And I heard that there are people here who would like to have few questions. So you can let me know, whoever has questions, any one of them. Hmm? I'll, okay, so And basically, the clinic that we're doing over there is obviously not as the one that we would do in a big clinic here in Lahore. But there are minimal charges. It was initially free, completely voluntary initially for 2 to 3 years. Now it's like a minimum sum which is required. But like I said, the community is a major part over there. And now that I'm living there, I literally cook one meal a day. The rest of the meals, I have no idea. Somehow, every time I get home, there's food in my house. And it's a simple living. It's not a kind of a living that you would experience in a city where you would need not a lot of needs which are required. And since I've worked here for such a long time, I do have enough income where I can sustain myself on the basic living. It's like basic enough that, I don't have to worry about the electricity half the time is not there. So my bills are not going to be somewhere around 70,000 or 100,000 per month. They're hardly 500 rupees, 300 rupees electricity bill. And there's just, when I moved in there, I had put in a solar panel, which kind of sustains me. And I don't have much of a need for that single solar panel. I only need it to charge my laptop or my cell phone, or in case somebody comes in at night, just switch on the electricity at that time and try to save that electricity also. I don't usually use it as much. So the cost is just a basic living. So we just go into our basic living. Our luxuries are not there. You don't need a lot of things to sustain yourself over there. There's an organic living. I have my own organic farm at the back of my house. It's a tiny patch where I grow my vegetables and everything, whichever I need. And the rest runs on a barter system also. Sometimes a lot of people who come in, they cannot pay me, but they pay me in terms of something that they have, like fruits, vegetables that they would pay me, or food, which is the basic living, basic thing that is required for us to live on. Yeah. Sure. You're welcome.
It's considered to be a taboo that women cannot go for jobs. That's why almost 51% of our women population that is still residing in the houses just as housewives. So a huge sum of labor force that is not going to be productive. So how we can move on a movement, like we can develop capacity in our women and we can come out of all of these taboos which are hampering in the development of our women. I thank you.
Hello. Yeah, that's a very good question because I agree with you. That's a major problem in our society and as a country, but basically it starts with the education. You have to educate a woman and empower her enough mentally that she can do anything. She can go out and study. I am thankful because I lived with my aunt and my nani, and I'm thankful for that उन्होंने मुझे ये हमेशा से ही बताया कि हम जो भी करना चाहें हम कर सकते हैं. हमारे पे कोई कंपल्शन नहीं है कि हमें कोई रोक नहीं रहा कि हम ये नहीं कर सकते. हम चाहें तो हम कुछ भी बन सकते हैं, चाहें तो कहीं पे भी जा सकते हैं और जो करना चाहें कर सकते हैं. उसके लिए एजुकेशन सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट है. और एजुकेशन ये नहीं जो हमारी जनरल एजुकेशन है जो आजकल हमें बुक्स सिखा रही हैं, उसके लिए ओपन माइंड होना और अंडरस्टैंडिंग होना बहुत ज़रूरी है کہ آپ کہیں پہ جا رہے ہیں تو اس کلچر کی رسپیکٹ کریں, آپ کہیں پہ جا رہے ہیں تو اس کو انڈرسٹینڈ کریں اور تھوڑی سی ٹالرنس اپنے اندر لائیں کہ اس کو برداشت بھی کر سکیں. اگر کوئی ایسی بات ہو بھی جائے جو آپ کے بلیف کے اگینسٹ ہے تو اس کو آپ نے ٹالریٹ کرنا ہے, آپ نے ایکسیپٹ کرنا ہے, کیونکہ وہ بھی ایک ہیومن بینگ ہے, وہ انسان ہے جو وہ بات کر رہا ہے. تو بیسیکلی اٹ اسٹارٹس ود دا ایجوکیشن. اٹس اے ٹیبو, بٹ آپ کو امپاورمنٹ اسی وقت ملتی ہے وین یو آر ایجوکیٹڈ اینڈ وین یو امپاور یور ویمن. آپ ان کو بچپن سے ہی یہ سکھائیں گے, چھوٹے بچوں کو اور بچیوں کو, کہ یہ ایک ایسی چیز ہے جس میں کوئی حرج نہیں ہے. وہ چاہے جیسے بھی ہوں, جس حالات میں, جس سوسائٹی سے بلانگ کرتے ہوں, وہ یہ کر سکتے ہیں. تو ایونچولی ان کے لیے کوئی ہنڈرنس پھر نہیں رہتی.